Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Time Travels with Kushina, Part 1 Naruto x Kushina. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Hehe, you have a crush on sensei. Nawaki laughed as the team was walking to training ground 5 the day after they were released from the hospital. Naruto had told them to meet there at 8 o'clock. Some of the paint could still be seen in Kushina's hair, but it was slowly going away due to her mauling her hair with shampoo and steaming hot water the night before. Do not. Why would I have a crush on some crazy guy who almost killed us? Kushina exclaimed. She turned her head away from them, acting like she was pouting, but in reality she had a big blush sprayed across her face, not wanting them to see it, but unlucky for her they did see it and they would not let it go. Don't lie Kushina, you like how strong he is and the teasing because it is written all over your face, Nawaki laughed out. Nawaki missed the angry look that passed her face, but before long he found out as a fist slammed into his face, sending him into the window of a store across the street. All they heard was cursing from the shop owner before they booked it out of there before they had to pay anything, leaving Nawaki to his fate. That was a little harsh, don't you think, Kushina? He was only messing with you after all, Shisui explained. They were now walking to the training ground again, slowing down when they were out of sight from the shop. Kushina turned her head towards Shisui, giving him a big old grin. I wasn't harsh. I even held back so he should recover in no time, Kushina replied. Right when she finished that statement, Nawaki appeared next to the two of them with a new bruise added to his cheek courtesy of Kushina's fist. Kushina just laughed at the look Nawaki gave her, adding to the fact the bruise had her fingers outlined made it even funnier. It's not funny Kushina, I have to pay for that damn window now, Nawaki shouted. Kushina ignored the shouting and just stared ahead of her, getting lost in her thoughts, but before long she was broken out of her thoughts by someone shaking her shoulder. She looked to see who it was, noticing that it was Shisui. We are here Kushina, I thought I should let you know since you looked out of it at the moment, Shisui said. Kushina nodded as she looked around the clearing, clearly not seeing their sensei anywhere in it. She saw Nawaki scowling out of the corner of her eye. Where the hell is he? He told us never to be late, but here he is 5 minutes late himself, Nawaki shouted. He was looking around at the trees thinking that their sensei must be here already and they were just being tested again. Kushina and Shisui ignored him as Shisui went and sat down in the shade beneath a large tree to relax until their sensei got there. Kushina was about to go relax as well before she felt a hand land on her shoulder. You guys got to pay more attention to your surroundings, Naruto whispered in her ear. She jumped forward, squealing, gaining a crimson blush across her face. Naruto started chuckling when Kushina squealed because it was just too hilarious not to. Shisui had quickly jumped up to his feet when Kushina had squealed while Nawaki was rolling around on the grass laughing his ass off. Why the hell did you sneak up on me, stupid sensei? Kushina shouted. She was completely embarrassed with what happened. She could not make eye contact with any of them. Naruto walked up to her, putting his hand on her shoulder once again, making Kushina look up at him in the eyes. Calm down Kushina, it was only a test. I wanted to see if you guys would detect me, but I guess you didn't, so after we get our first mission today completed I am going to set up a trap detecting test to make sure you guys are ready for anything, Naruto explained. As he said this though, his eyes kept looking towards Nawaki because he needed to learn this test the most if he was going to have any chance of survival. He leaned down to Kushina's ear after he explained this, making a small blush appear on her face the closer he had gotten. The Hokage would like to speak with you after we receive our mission to discuss something important with you, Naruto whispered. Kushina's blush disappeared quickly after that was spoken, nodding to show that she got the message. He pulled back away from Kushina once he told her what she needed to do. Okay team, it's time to get our mission, Naruto said. He led them out of the training ground to the Hokage Tower. As they approached the Hokage Tower, Nawaki leaned a little closer to Kushina. So what did sensei say to you? Was he asking you out on a date? Nawaki whispered, looking quite serious. Kushina looked at him with an enormous blush on her face, making Nawaki break down in laughter once again. He should have learned his lesson the first time, as he doubled over onto his knees from the pain that shot up from his nuts being kicked in. Why did you do that? Nawaki whimpered from his place on the ground, not being able to feel his nuts at the moment. Damn, that must have hurt. I kind of feel sorry for him, but he might have deserved it, Naruto thought, looking back at his team. I did it because you were being an idiot, Kushina exclaimed. She did not care what she did to him as long as he stopped messing with her. Shisui stayed a little bit away from her once her foot connected to Nawaki's nuts. I also did it because sensei would never ask me out because he probably takes me as being too young for him anyway, Kushina thought. She peered up at Naruto after the thought, seeing the look he gave them. She blushed in embarrassment because she was holding up the team up from getting their first mission. I'm sorry sensei for holding us up from our first mission, but I had to do it, Kushina explained. Naruto understood that Nawaki probably had said something to make her so mad, so he forgave her even though he wasn't mad at her to begin with. It's okay Kushina-chan, but we got to go get the mission now, Naruto said, smirking. Kushina gained a tick mark on her forehead, but before she could say anything in retaliation, Naruto vanished, leaving no trace of chakra behind. One of these days I am going to get you back sensei, Kushina thought as her anger receded for the most part. Shisui hoisted Nawaki's right arm up onto his left shoulder so he could help him to the Hokage tower. Kushina paid no mind to Nawaki though as they continued their trek to the tower. When they finally reached the tower after a long walk because of the hurt Nawaki, they walked up the stairs, reaching the office. They knocked, getting the okay to enter, so they entered, closing the door behind them. What took you guys so long? I have been here for about 15 minutes already, Naruto said. He stood in front of them with a scroll in hand which they realized must be the mission they were receiving. What type of mission did we get sensei? Shisui asked. They all wanted to know, but Nawaki a little less than them because all he wanted at the moment was a seat. His legs felt like jelly. We got a border patrol mission that could take anywhere between 3 days to a week depending on the situation of our replacements, so go home, pack and meet at the main gate in an hour's time for the mission, Naruto commanded. He watched as Shisui helped Nawaki out of the room while Kushina went to follow. The Hokage would like to speak to you, remember? Naruto said, stopping Kushina in her tracks. She nodded, turning back around, walking to the Hokage's desk, taking a seat. Thanks for giving her the message, Naruto, and remember, in 2 weeks there will be a Jonin meeting, so make sure you are there, the Sandaime explained. I know I'll be there, Naruto replied as he walked out of the office to give Kushina and the Sandaime enough time to talk so she could go pack for the mission as well. He had a pretty good idea of what they were going to talk about. It was probably going to be on what happened to the Whirlpool village, so she was going to be asking him questions which he did not want to answer yet. I hope she does not ask me about anything until we return from the mission at least, but that might be asking for too much, Naruto thought, chuckling to himself, knowing it to be true. When he was a good distance from the tower, he was abruptly broken out of his thought by a loud yell. Naruto-sensei, wait up, I need to talk to you about something for a couple minutes, Kushina shouted, closing in on Naruto by the second. Naruto stopped in his tracks, slightly looking back at Kushina, catching a glance of her. No can do, Kushina. I have to go pick up a few things I want to teach you guys on the mission, Yane, Naruto replied as he vanished with no trace when Kushina finally reached him. She caught the grin on his face before he had vanished, which ticked her off. What the hell? Get back here, Kushina shouted, although she knew he would not hear her, so she began to grumble as she continued her path down the road. They badly need to learn detection skills and trap detection as well. I mean, she could not detect me on the roof right next to her position, Naruto thought, sweat dropping. He guessed it was to be expected because they were only genin after all, but they should be taught better in the academy to begin with. Maybe he would talk to the Hokage about that when they returned. I better go get the supplies needed to make the traps I have in mind. When they get through my traps, they will be a master of detection if they can do it, Naruto thought, chuckling. He could not wait until that test. He wished he could have them run through it once on the mission, but they would get hurt doing this test, and that would be bad because an enemy could attack through the borders at any moment. They had to be at the top of their game or risk dying, even if there were ninjas stationed all around the perimeter waiting for us to give a signal of attack if the need arises. Naruto jumped off the building, landing in the street, making his way to the weapon store. Once he got the things he needed from the store, he headed to the gate to await his team. When he got to the gate, he noticed Jiraiya and his team coming back from a mission he guessed by the look of it. "Hey Jiraiya, are you the ones we are replacing at the border?" Naruto asked. Jiraiya looked at him confused because he did not know who he was, but decided to answer anyway. "Yeah, have fun. There isn't really much happening there, so don't look forward to any action. By the way, who are you, since you seem to be a new Jonin here?" Jiraiya asked. "Yeah, I'm new. The name is Naruto and I am the sensei of Team 5, Naruto replied. A couple reactions could be seen from Jiraiya's team after he said this. Minato looked shocked, but the other two on the team looked like they could care less, while Jiraiya looked a little pissed but not too much. "So you're the one that sent them to the hospital?" Tsunade would not shut up about how bad you hurt her brother and the other two. "You should not have been that hard on them. I understand you have to be tough since the war is starting to pick up, but try not to send them to the hospital because then I have to listen to Tsunade rant on forever," Jiraiya said, a little mad, but it was quickly replaced by a sigh because Tsunade had really drained him that day. "I'll try not to, but no guarantees," Naruto replied. He smirked because of the look Jiraiya sent his way, but he quickly diverted his look to Minato, who stepped up. "Are you the sensei for Kushina's team?" Minato asked. He looked very shy at the moment, so Naruto guessed he already developed a crush on her before she did a couple years from now. Before he answered, however, Jiraiya put a hand on Minato's shoulder, making him turn his head towards his sensei. "Yeah, he's her sensei, but I did not think you would have a crush on a girl already. I am so proud of you," Jiraiya said. Minato blushed in response to what his sensei insinuated. "No, I don't, Jiraiya-sensei, she is just a friend," Minato said. No one on his team looked to believe at all of what he said. Jiraiya just smirked because he acted so innocent. Naruto looked on at the interaction, not wanting to stop it because he wanted to learn a little more about his father of this time. He was broken out of his thoughts when Jiraiya called him. "Make sure you protect your team and don't let nothing happen to them, or I will never hear the end of it from Tsunade. If something happens, I won't be able to hold Tsunade back from beating you to next week," Jiraiya said as he stood straighter, looking Naruto right in the eyes. "You don't have to tell me that. The only reason I am tough on them in training is to make sure they are completely ready for what is to come. It is better to be tough on them, giving them the experience of actual combat without having to die if they failed, unlike in the field where one mistake leads to your death," Naruto replied. Team Jiraiya looked at him curiously because he had stood up to their sensei with no amount of fear shown. "Hey, just make sure you don't kill them yourself then. I think you pose more of a threat to them than other villages do by the amount of damage that they had shown in the hospital," Jiraiya replied, chuckling. He began to lead his team past Naruto, stopping right next to him as his team kept moving. "Do you think you are strong enough to protect them though? One is the holder of the Kyuubi, the other is an Uchiha, and Nawaki is the brother of Tsunade, meaning lots of strong people might come after your team to get one, maybe all of their powers," Jiraiya said. He saw the smirk spread across Naruto's face halfway through his warning. "You don't have to worry, Jiraiya. I may not look it, but I am strong. I took down an army of around 500 in the middle of the night, protecting Whirlpool from its destruction, so I believe you should worry more about yourself than me," Naruto replied, stepping closer to the gate to wait for his team as Jiraiya looked at his form, god smacked by what he was just told. The thing is, Naruto did not see his team was already there and heard every word that was spoken between the two. Jiraiya had picked up on it after the conversation, so he decided to leave not a second later. The reason he did not pick up on them was because he was deep in thought at the moment about all the things that had happened so far the past month or so that he was here. "Why did you save my village, sensei?" I am grateful and all, but why did you risk your life to take down an army by yourself without telling anyone from the village? Kushina asked. Naruto quickly snapped out of his thoughts, slowly turning towards them like he knew they were already there. That's my secret. Maybe I will tell you another time, but for right now we have a mission that needs to be completed at the moment, Naruto replied with a grin. He saw an angry look appear on Kushina's face from his diversion from her question, while Shisui and Nawaki looked like they did not care. You can tell us on the way, sensei. I mean, there is not much else to do, Shisui said. Naruto sighed in exasperation, but he quickly came up with a plan, pulling out the mission scroll, handing it to him. Team 5 looked at him confused, not knowing why they were given the scroll, but they did not have to wait long for an answer. No, I can't. The reason for this is that I want you guys to find the border place where we will be setting up by yourselves. I will be waiting there for you guys, so just search for my chakra signature, Naruto said, vanishing without a trace. I hope he actually leaves a chakra signature, or we may have a hard time finding the place, Nawaki said, sighing, because it would be a long day. Kushina did not hear him, however, because she was lost in thoughts, thinking that she was going to make their sensei talk no matter what. Nawaki had been right, because from when they left the village it took around 7 hours before they caught sight of the fortified building coming up on the path they were on. Finally, my feet are killing me, Kushina groaned. They were traveling pretty fast the whole trip, only stopping once for a water break. Once they got to the fortified building, they were told to go to the top to stand guard with their sensei, who had been waiting there for them a little over 6 hours now. What took you guys so long? Do I need to step up your training once we get back to the village? Naruto asked, smiling evilly. Their eyes widened before all three shook their heads, not wanting anything worse than what they already had gotten. We will make sure we are faster next time, Shisui replied. This got a smile out of Naruto, because he finally met an Uchiha who wasn't all stuck up about his own power. Your training will still be the same for now, just make sure you're faster next time, because if you're even a second late on a battlefield the rest of your comrades may already be dead, so don't slack off, Naruto said as he began to look out over the small clearing just before a huge forest that captivated most of the land in the area. Not much happened for 2 days following the patrol around the area and the outlook from the fortified base. Kushina had been bugging him for some answers, but she never got any. This infuriated her, but she would have to deal with it for now. He had told her he would answer some of her questions once they were done with the mission and back in the village. It calmed her down to a reasonable level. The next morning when he got up, he looked out over the clearing to the luscious forest, but that is not what held his sight. No, it was the orange glittering from the Iwa headbands in the forest that caught the sun's rays that had his attention. He showed no signs that he knew they were there, because he wanted to see if his team would spot them before he made his move. There looked to be about 20 of them in the area. Looks like Jiraiya was wrong. Some action did find us after all, Naruto thought. His thoughts were cut off as his team ran up to him with looks that said they knew, making him smile because they were already improving from his lessons. Sensei, there are Iwa ninja in the forest on the other side of the clearing, Nawaki shouted. They waited for an order to come, but they saw that he was not going to respond. Are we going to attack them now? Kushina asked. All of Team 5 wanted to know, because they wanted to test themselves against real opponents for once. Not yet, because you guys won't want to be caught up in the traps I have set up in the field. Once they go off, then we attack, taking out the remainder of the Iwa ninja that survive. Go tell the rest of the ninja here in the fort that, Naruto said. Team 5 nodded in understanding, because they knew how advanced his traps were. They headed off to tell the rest of the ninja, but right when they began to announce this to the other ninja, Iwa ninja began to pour out of the woods, making most ninja in the area stiffen until the whole clearing lit up in a blaze of glory. Then the ground shifted as wind blades came out of the tree lines, trapping the Iwa ninja in the field, cutting them up from all angles with no way of an escape. After all the elemental traps went off, Naruto walked into the field to inspect the bodies. When he got to the center of the field where the bodies lied, around 10 Iwa ninja came out of the ground, forming a circle around him. You have no way of escape, one Iowa ninja said, chuckling. The Iowa ninja thought they had him trapped. Oh, how they were wrong about that, and now they must find out the hard way. The Iowa ninja were closing in on him, trapping him in a small space, making him grin with excitement. You think you guys got me trapped? You must be genin to not have noticed this was a trap from the very beginning, Naruto said. The Iowa ninja's eyes widened but had no time to react as Naruto glowed white before exploding, taking out all 10 ninja. No one saw this though, as the explosion kicked up dust completely covering the field. There are a couple more left, but nothing special, just a couple weak ones that did not want to join the fray, so you guys take it from here. If I see you guys need help, I will step in, Naruto said as his genin team shot forward, meeting the remaining 5 Iowa ninja out of the whole attacking force they sent. His team finished them off quickly. Nawaki took out 2 ninja, as did Shisui, making Kushina take out the last one, but to be truthful, the last one was the hardest because he had Chunin level skills. The others only had a genin skill level, but nonetheless Kushina had one in no less than 30 seconds because the Iowa ninja let his guard down, getting a kunai through his neck, gushing blood before dropping dead in a heap. He looked at his team. Nawaki and Kushina did not look too good because this was their first kill, but Shisui looked fine. The only reason he looked fine was because the Uchiha training method of hiding the emotions was in full swing. Cheer up guys, you needed to kill them. If you didn't, then they would have killed you, or perhaps they would have killed everyone back in Konoha. We as ninja have the hard duty of killing for our village, but we must to keep it safe. When you became ninja, you chose this path of a protector, but protectors kill for the home or precious people, Naruto explained. His team looked at him with shocked expressions on their faces, but they knew he was right, so they quickly got stern faces as they began to clean up the dead bodies. Know this, my training may be tough and my training methods may seem extreme, but they are for your own good, because it is better to get everything shoved at you in practice than in an actual battle with no experience, Naruto said. He left his team to clean up the bodies with the other ninja at the fort as he made out a message, sending it back to the Leaf Village by a messenger hawk. This is disgusting, these bodies are so mangled up, why do we have to do all the cleaning? I may be a woman, but I don't clean stuff like this up, Kushina shouted as she lifted up an arm that was still bleeding but no body in sight that it matched to because of the burn marks up the arm, leaving no chance of finding a match for anything. So they pilled all the bodies together in the center of the clearing. Kaden Phoenix Flower Jutsu, Shisui shouted as he lit the bodies on fire, as well as some bodies that were too mangled up to move to the pile without having to make more of a mess. Finally, we are done, time to relax, Nawaki said. The mental strain put a lot of stress on their shoulders. Naruto appeared in front of them once Nawaki had said that. It's done, sensei, Shisui said. Naruto looked around at the clearing, noticing the bodies were burning. Good, you guys can go rest for the whole morning because we head back to the Leaf at noon, Naruto announced. Team 5 nodded as Nawaki and Shisui left the area, but Kushina stayed behind, still standing in front of Naruto. Why are you still here, Kushina-chan? Do you want to clean up more bodies? Naruto asked, watching a fearful look appear on her face, making him laugh out. It was so fun to mess with them because they were so innocent still, but it was his job to break them out of that innocent stage in their lives. No, sensei, I wanted to make sure that you are going to tell me a few things about what happened in Whirlpool because none of them saw the battle, only you who were in it know anything, Kushina said. Yeah, I will tell you about it, but not right now. Once we arrive in the Leaf Village, I will explain a couple things, Naruto replied. He walked forward, placing a hand on her shoulder, missing the blush that appeared on her face from the contact. I won't hold any of the information back from you because you deserve to know since it is your home, Naruto said. Kushina leaned forward, wrapping her arms around him, burying her head in his chest. His eyes widened, not expecting anything like this to happen. Thank you, Naruto-sensei, Kushina replied. She had a crimson blush on her face because of the bold act she was doing, but she did not let it get to her. He wrapped his arms around her as well, not really knowing why, but he felt the need to comfort her. She pulled back from the hug when her blush vanished from her face. You need to clean your hair better, there is still some blue paint left, Naruto said, smirking. He began to take a couple steps back as Kushina growled at him. You're the one who got the paint in my hair and you're standing here telling me to clean my hair better. I have been, but your stupid paint won't come out that easy, Kushina shouted, pulling out a couple of kunai, chucking them at him. Maybe I should not have said that, Naruto thought as one of the kunai whizzed by his head and another soared by his arm. He vanished a second later without a trace, leaving an angry Kushina still standing in the clearing. You need to calm down, there might be more ninja nearby, a random chunin said, walking up to her. Kushina turned towards him with a look that said, mess with me, you're dead. The chunin began to sweat heavily. He was having second thoughts about trying to talk to her now. Leave, I have to think of a way to get him back, Kushina growled out. The chunin left quickly, kicking up dust in his wake. At noon they left the fortified border base, and by night they finally could see the gates of Konoha coming up closer by the second. They had gotten no breaks along the way because Naruto had wanted to make sure they were not attacked again at all on the way back. Kushina had been trying to play pranks on him at the base before they left and along the way back to Konoha, but she still did not get him back yet, which irritated her to no end. You guys are dismissed. I have a meeting with the Hokage, Naruto commanded as he vanished with no trace as they entered the village, leaving them to sign in at the gate. I need to get some sleep. My sister will probably want to have a pretty big party for my birthday tomorrow, and Sensei will probably run us ragged in that test he spoke of, Nawaki said. Kushina and Shisui agreed that Naruto would not go easy on them because he had stated that himself. Don't worry, we will kick his ass for sure tomorrow, Nawaki shouted. They were now walking down the main street of Konoha discussing random things. It was getting late, so all three decided to head home for the night. As they left, Naruto watched perched on a rooftop close by. Even though Naruto watched them, he did not know Kushina's thoughts were on him. Two thoughts plagued her head, but Naruto would not know of them for quite some time. They think it will be easy, then they got another thing coming. If I want to save Nawaki, then the trap test tomorrow will be no easy feat, Naruto thought as he vanished into the wind without a trace to prepare for the test. Ah, it's a perfect morning, not a cloud in sight, Naruto thought giddy as he walked the main street of Konoha. He had prepared the whole test the night before for his team. He sent a clone to each of their houses about an hour ago, saying to meet him at the Forest of Death, which was training ground 44. The clone he sent to Nawaki's house was dispelled by a punch from Tsunade and a threat that if he did the same damage he had done to Nawaki a second time, she would make sure he would go through 3 times the amount of pain. The Forest of Death is the perfect place for this kind of test. They will have to dodge my traps while staying away from the deadly animals throughout the forest, Naruto thought. He was going to be an hour late though to show up because first he needed to pick up a couple headset radios so he could talk with his team, or they could spread out in the forest to cover more ground. Once he had gotten the radios, still about 40 minutes remained before he had to meet his team, so he decided to go train. Team 5 sat in the clearing before the Forest of Death waiting for Naruto. Where is he? If he doesn't get here soon, I am going to kick his ass, Nawaki shouted, jumping up to his feet. He wanted to get the test started already, passing it so he could go to the party his sister had set up for him. Kushina and Shisui were both invited. Their sensei was to, but he still had not shown up yet, so he could tell him. Calm down, Nawaki. He will be here when he has everything he needs. We only just got back yesterday, so he probably needs supplies for this test, Shisui said calmly. Shisui sat in a meditative poise in the grass with his eyes locked on Nawaki, who was pacing back and forth. Damn it, stop that, it's annoying, Kushina told Nawaki. The pacing was driving her nuts. She was trying to think of ways to get their sensei back, but she couldn't with Nawaki bothering her. Mind your own business, Nawaki shouted. He turned in her direction, getting met with a fist into his gut, doubling him over before a kick to the face sent him into one of the many gates of the Forest of Death. Nawaki did not get up right away, but Kushina did not care. All she did was sit back down to think once again. Not matter how strong our sensei is, I will get him back at least once, Kushina thought, crossing her arms. She knew it had to be something he would not expect or it would not work, but that was the thing. What would he not expect to come from her? None of Team 5 sensed Naruto, who was perched in a high tree above the gate Nawaki had collided with. He looked down, chuckling at his team. They really do like fighting. It might become a problem in the long run, but I will deal with it later when I feel that it gets out of control. I better go meet them or they may attack me too, Naruto thought as he landed next to Nawaki, who was slowing lifting himself up. He jumped from the sudden appearance of his sensei, making his head collide with the metal gate, giving him a nice bump. What the hell, tell us when you're going to appear out of nowhere, Nawaki shouted, rubbing the back of his head from the pain. Kushina shot up out of her sitting position at Naruto, whose eyes widened, not believing that she actually was trying to hit him. He noticed Shisui slowly got up from his meditative position with a sigh. This isn't going to work, Kushina-chan, Naruto said, catching her fist in his hand. Kushina swung her other arm around, trying to get him, but it was quickly deflected as well. She jumped back, giving herself some room to think about how she was going to attack. She didn't get the time, however, as Naruto appeared behind her, pinning her arms behind her back. He leaned forward to her ear, breathing heavily in it to tease her. Kushina's face became crimson from the contact. Now Kushina, the test did not start yet, so calm down and maybe I will give you something special, Naruto said. Kushina's face got even darker after the comment. She began to feel dizzy, not knowing why. You're so fun to mess with, Naruto whispered in her ear. He released her as he walked to the gate Nawaki had been at, but he now stood near Kushina and Shisui. He could hear that Kushina was grumbling, while Nawaki sported a big old grin as he looked at her. Stupid sensei, why do I always feel weird when he is near me like that? He is the only one that I get the feeling from when he is close to me, Kushina thought. She quickly pushed those thoughts out of her head as their sensei began to speak, or he would have if Nawaki did not interrupt him. Hehe, Kushina, did you think sensei was going to give you a kiss? Nawaki said. He began imitating what a kiss looked like, but before long his face met the ground. Curiosity of Kushina's fist to the top of his head. Shut up, you idiot, I do not want anything from him, and I especially don't want a kiss from him, Kushina shouted. Her face was covered in a blush. It looked like she was mad, but probably was from embarrassment. She continued to stomp on his back, taking the cries of pain from Nawaki as a sign that she was doing her job right. Naruto knew he had to stop this before Nawaki got hurt. He could not let any of them injure each other before his test. I could give you a kiss if you want, Naruto said in a serious tone, trying to hide the laughter he held in. He could not wait for her reaction to come from what he just announced. Out of the corner of his eye he caught Shisui looking calm as ever. He must have known what he was trying to do. Wah, what be you? But Kushina stopped stomping on Nawaki as she turned to look at Naruto. Her face was dark red, just like her hair, with no signs of turning back anytime soon. She could not believe that he just said that, because she did not know how to respond to it. She was not expecting him to come right out and ask her. A couple moments later, though, the blush faded from her face as it was replaced by a scowl. You're messing with me, aren't you? Kushina growled out as a grin appeared on Naruto's face. Yep, but enough of the teasing. Here, Naruto said as he pulled out 3 headsets for them to use. Nawaki had gotten back on to his feet when Naruto had caught Kushina's attention. Nawaki, Kushina and Shisui caught the headsets as they were thrown to them. They were confused, but they strapped them on anyways. What are these for, sensei? Shisui asked. Nawaki had been about to ask but did not get the chance to. Those headsets are so I can communicate with you guys in the forest behind me. You can also use them to communicate with each other. Your goal for this test is to find me without setting off any of the traps in the forest. If you set off a trap, I can change my hiding position every time you activate a trap, meaning the test will get longer. Your second goal will be, once you find me, you have to fight me for about a minute. Not very long, I know, but the point of this test is detection, Naruto explained. All of Team 5 nodded their heads as they walked up to the gate that Naruto was standing next to. Good luck, I hope you like my traps, Naruto said, grinning. He was about to dispel, but Nawaki stopped him a moment before he could. Wait, sensei. After this test is over, my sister wanted me to invite my team to my party. Kushina and Shisui are already going to be there, so would you come? Nawaki asked. Sure, why not, as long as Tsunade doesn't try and kill me, Naruto said. Nawaki nodded his head as Naruto went up in a plume of smoke, indicating he had been a shadow clone the whole time. I guess we can begin, Kushina said. He never told them when to begin, but it did not really matter. They jumped into the forest a second later. I think we should split up because we can cover more ground easier, and if we find Sensei, tell the other two through the radios, Shisui said. Kushina and Nawaki nodded as they split up. Shisui went straight ahead as Kushina went left and Nawaki went right. They were being very observant as they went because they did not want to hit any of Sensei's traps. Nawaki had too much on his mind though, because when he jumped to the next branch a tripwire sprung, breaking in two, making his eyes widen. Shit already, Nawaki shouted. Multiple kunai came at him from all angles, so he did the only thing that came to mind, dropping to the forest floor, but that must have been precisely what Naruto thought the person would have done, as a big pit opened up covered in explosive tags. He was about to fall in the pit, but he caught the side of it as his body hung down into the pit. As he climbed out, he thought he was in the clear, though luck was not on his side when one of the kunai that were launched from the previous traps fell into the pit, igniting the explosive tags. Nawaki's eyes widened as he stumbled away from the pit as fast as he could. A second later, the area was lit with a white light as several trees were uprooted and launched in multiple directions. Nawaki had gotten out of the main blast radius but was still hit with the force of it, flinging him about 10 feet away from the pit, face planted into the side of a tree. I have to worry more about Sensei's tests than dying in the field against the enemy, Nawaki groaned. He fell onto his back trying to catch his breath. It had hardly been 5 minutes and a trap almost killed him already. Unknown to Nawaki, a Naruto clone sat up in a tree a little ways away, watching everything that he did. He wasn't the only one being watched. Shisui and Kushina were being watched too. The reasons the clones were watching them was to make sure none of them died and to provide another challenge before they reached the real Naruto. I can't stop now, I got to find Sensei, Nawaki shouted. He quickly got up, darting in the direction he had been earlier before the trap had been set off. He was paying more attention now to his surroundings, managing to disable a couple traps without setting any off. Shisui was doing even better than Nawaki was because he had set no traps off yet but disabled around 8 traps already. Sensei sure filled this forest with traps, one wrong move and I am dead. I don't think he would let it come to that though, Shisui thought. He missed the next branch, having to opt for the next one or land on the forest floor. He landed on the next branch, missing the see-through tripwire he sprung, but he was more concerned by the giant spider that now hung down in front of him. Pulling out several kunai, launching them at the spider, hitting it in 2 of its eyes, as the others were deflected by its leg. This thing is not like a normal spider, Shisui thought, trying to come up with a plan, but a plan was given to him as fireballs came at him from above and from all sides. Shisui jumped to the side quickly, using another tree as cover. He knew that his body would have burns when this was over, but he would be fine enough to continue. 2 of the fireballs slammed into the spider, burning it to a crisp as it dropped down to the forest floor dead before it even made contact. The rest of the fireballs hit the trees in the area as the fire spread like wildfire through the area. The flames came around the tree Shisui was hiding behind, starting to burn the sleeves of his shirt, but before the fire could reach his shirt completely, the fire was extinguished by water that came out of 4 activated seals on a couple trees. Thank you, Sensei, Shisui thought. He was very grateful that Naruto had set up countermeasures just in case his traps had gotten out of control. He stepped back near the spot he had stood before, noticing the now dead spider below, or what was left of it. I'm lucky I wasn't hit. I would look like that spider right now, Shisui said. He inspected the area, seeing nothing he could use, continued his trek through the forest, being even more careful of his surroundings now. He missed the seals that were set off from the water. He jumped in mid-air to land on the next branch, but before he could reach it, a force slammed into him, sending his body smack down into the forest floor, which did not feel very good, possibly 2 broken ribs from the impact, maybe more. Crap, I wasn't expecting that. What happened? Shisui groaned. He could not get up. It felt like a couple tons were placed on his back, making him unable to move at all. He was only able to lift his head enough for him to get a glance at the area. What he saw were seals on almost every tree, barely visible even to the most hawk-like eyes. How are we supposed to find him and complete this test if his traps are almost undetectable? At least I am the only one trapped here. It was a good idea to split up after all, Shisui thought. He was in a lot of pain, but he would bear it. It was a good thing he landed in high grass. Even though he still hit the ground, it was a softer landing than if he collided with complete dirt ground. Those seals activated at the worst possible time, a Naruto clone thought, sighing as it smacked its forehead. He was going to get yelled at from Tsunade, especially since Shisui was going to be at the party later. I better go release him so he can at least get up and not get eaten by the wildlife in the area, the clone thought. It jumped down to the forest floor, putting a hand on the base of a tree. A second later, all the seals grew dim in the area before completely going out as the weight was lifted. Shisui noticed the change of weight immediately as he slowly got up into a sitting position, holding his side as pain shot up him. He knew he could not continue anymore by the state he was in, but he had to, so he was about to call one of his teammates for help, but a hand landed on his shoulder before he could ask for anything. You did enough. You pass, the clone said. Shisui turned his head slightly towards him to get a better look at his sensei. What about Kushina and Nawaki? Shisui asked. Don't worry about them. You know how to detect traps really well, so you pass, but they have not yet. You are going to the hospital now to get treated, but don't worry, I will pick you up for Nawaki's party later, Naruto said. What he said was true. Shisui had great detection capabilities, probably because of him being an Uchiha, but who knows? His best traps were laid out further into bad. Shisui got hurt too much to continue on. Shisui nodded in understanding, even knowing himself that continuing would be impossible. Shouldn't you make a clone to take me though? I mean, you can't just leave them here with all of your traps alone. Unless you are a clone, Shisui said. Naruto nodded to the last part, hoisting Shisui on to his back, disappearing without a trace a moment later. I don't even know where I am going, Kushina grumbled. She had turned back when she heard a muffled yell come from the radio that sounded like Shisui. She needed to make sure he was okay. She stopped on the next branch, disabling the trigger for a trap that was set on the branch before moving on. The forest was like a maze, but without a direction. It was too dense to really see much any which way. Her thoughts were cut off as she landed on the next branch headlong into Nawaki as they both tumbled to the ground in a heap. They both groaned as they entangled from each other. Watch where you're going, Kushina. You could have killed us both. Why are you going this direction anyway? Didn't you go left? Nawaki said, a little angry at being knocked out of a tree. Shut up, I came back this way when I heard Shisui yell over the radio, Kushina said, punching Nawaki in the arm. Nawaki opted to shut up because they were both here for the same reason, to help Shisui out of whatever trouble he had gotten into. He began looking all over the area they were in, feeling a chakra build up around them. Kushina felt it too as she looked all over as well. They could not see nothing though. I guess it's time for the next phase of the test, Naruto thought. As he appeared from behind a tree near Nawaki and Kushina, making them take a couple steps back. I thought we had to come find you. Why are you here? Kushina asked. They knew something was up when a grin appeared on his face, making them gulp. The test has changed slightly since I took Shisui captive, Naruto replied, pulling out Shisui from behind the tree he had stepped out from. His hands were tied, as were his legs. There were no noticeable injuries anywhere on him. They must have heard Shisui earlier if they came this way, so this clone here will be their test. If they take the bait, they fail, but if they don't, then there is one more part of the test left, which is going to be my favorite, Naruto thought, chuckling. He was definitely enjoying himself toying with fresh genin. Why are you holding him hostage? I thought this was supposed to be a trap detection test, Kushina said. It is, but I decided to add another part to the test. This will show me if you're ready for actual battles in war because you have to fight while watching your surroundings for any danger. So come and try to take him back, Naruto said from his position beside Shisui. Nawaki threw multiple kunai at Naruto, following it up with a couple shuriken directly behind the kunai. Shinra Tensei, Naruto said as the kunai and shuriken were inches from him flinging back towards Nawaki. Lucky for him that he knew something like that would happen, so he was able to move out of the way in time. Naruto quickly turned his attention back to Kushina as a chain rushed at him from the ground. Crap, I forgot that she could do that, Naruto thought, jumping back a good distance away, giving enough time for Nawaki to grab the clone that looked like Shisui, jumping back to land next to Kushina. When did you learn that? Naruto asked. He was shocked because he did not think Kushina would know that at such a young age already. I figured out how to do it on that mission we were on. I still don't know how I can do it, but I can still use it against you, Kushina said, grinning. Around 5 chains shot forward at Naruto, making him deflect one of them as he charged at them to show that she still needed practice with the move. The 4 remaining chains tried to wrap around him, but he just vanished as he appeared behind Kushina, kicking her in the back, sending her towards a tree, but she never hit the tree as Nawaki appeared in the path, catching her before impact. He placed her back onto her feet, getting ready for another round with their sensei. Shisui was leaned up against the tree behind them. Kushina, are you okay? Can you still fight? Nawaki asked. He could tell that she was winded and tired being hit around like that. She wasn't a person to give up though, so she got back into her fighting stance. I'm good, just protect Shisui so sensei cannot get anywhere near him, Kushina said. She glanced at Nawaki, catching the nod he sent her way. Nawaki looked back towards the downed form of Shisui, realizing something. That yell over the radio sounded like Shisui was in pain, but here he looks to be perfectly fine, Nawaki thought. His eyes widened, realizing that it was one of his clones that would probably explode. He launched forward, grabbing Shisui by his shirt, tossing him quite the distance away so Naruto could not use it against them. Kushina looked on, shocked and dumbfounded that Nawaki had just tossed their teammate across the clearing, while Naruto grinned in approval, finally making some progress with them. Why did you do that? Kushina said angrily. I did it because it was a clone made by our sensei to explode. Remember what he did against us during the Genin test? I believe he was trying to do the same thing again to see if we learned anything, Nawaki explained. Kushina finally understood, so she turned back to Naruto, thinking the test was finally over. Is the test over now since you can't pull one over on us now? Kushina said, taunting him. Naruto just stood perfectly still, with the grin still plastered on his face. Nope, you first have to find a way out of this situation, Naruto said. A horde of clones popped out of everywhere, surrounding Kushina and Nawaki on all ends. They started going through hand signs as the gravity began to increase around them, pushing their bodies harder into the ground by the second. They were still standing, but not for long because their legs were starting to give out, so they needed to come up with a plan, and fast. What should we do? Nawaki said, hoping Kushina had a plan to get out of this mess they were in. Kushina began to think after a couple seconds, finally coming up with a good enough plan that might work. 10 chains shot out, wrapping around 10 clones before the chains launched them into the others, giving them a hole to escape through, but they had to hurry as the clones started glowing white. Just as they made it a couple feet away, the area exploded outwards, taking out trees and even some of the ground by the amount of clones that had went off. When Naruto noticed how big the explosion was going to be, launched himself in front of his team, slapping his hands on the ground, making a rock wall rise up out of the ground, blocking the explosion. Thanks, sensei, Nawaki said, falling on his ass, huffing from exhaustion. Kushina was mad, but she saw how he protected them from his jutsu, knowing that it was a little too much for them to handle, so she decided to forgive him for now. Naruto lowered the rock wall once the explosion had ceased. The amount of damage done to the surrounding trees and ground probably will never be fixed completely, because right now it looked like a small wasteland. I don't think I should have made so many exploding clones, Naruto said, sweat dropping, not really knowing that it would cause this much damage to the area. You went way too far, sensei, but where is the real Shisui anyway? Nawaki asked from his position on the ground. Oh, he is in the hospital because he broke a couple of ribs falling mid-jump into the ground, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head. How did he fall mid-jump? Kushina asked. She was curious because most people did not just fall for no reason, so sensei must have done something. Naruto saw the accusing look Kushina shot his way. Hey, it wasn't completely my fault. He stumbled in range of my gravity seal that I placed up over a area extending the flux in gravity. The seals had activated when he was in mid-air, making him land hard on the ground, not able to get up, Naruto explained. He saw them sigh. They probably wished they had a different sensei at the moment. You're crazy, sensei, Nawaki says, standing up. At least you guys didn't get hurt as bad, and you did learn something. You knew Shisui was a clone and you guys were able to detect my traps after a bit of work, so my training helped, Naruto replied. Team 5 began their walk out of the forest. You could teach us a little differently maybe so we don't end up hurt every training session, Kushina said. She felt so sore and it was only about 5 in the afternoon, so she still was going to go to Nawaki's party. It doesn't matter, at least it is over with for now. I got to go home to start the party with my sister. You coming, sensei? Nawaki asked. Naruto told them he would go to the party later after he picked up Shisui from the hospital first. He vanished without a trace a moment later, leaving Nawaki and Kushina to leave the forest by themselves. Naruto quickly went to pick up the present from his place he had been saving to give to Nawaki on this day. After he got the wrapped present from his place, he went to the hospital picking up Shisui for the party. Next time, no gravity seal, sensei, Shisui said as they approached Nawaki and Tsunade's house. I wasn't planning on using them anymore in training sessions anyway because they are unpredictable, Naruto explained to Shisui, knocking on the door. The door opened, revealing Tsunade standing there. She noticed Shisui was leaning on Naruto for support. Did you hurt him in one of your training sessions again? Tsunade said, growling. No, I didn't. One of my seals that were laid out went off at the wrong time, sending him into the ground hard. So I decided I am not using them anymore when training them because it is too dangerous, Naruto said, putting a hand on Shisui's shoulder about to lead him in. He didn't get the chance as the door flung open more, revealing Jiraiya, who looked to be a bit tipsy already. Come in, the party just started, said a drunk Jiraiya, leading both Naruto and Shisui into the house as Tsunade closed the door behind them. Jiraiya led them to the living room where he noticed Kushina and Nawaki were hanging around Jiraiya's team talking about random things. Minato was sitting awfully close to Kushina, but her sight was set on Naruto, who just walked in the door with Shisui. She and Nawaki bolted off the coach, running to Shisui to check him over. After an hour of talking, it began to get late, so they ate dinner. Having dinner with Tsunade and Jiraiya was one thing he never really got to do in his time. He made sure to enjoy every minute of it. I'm going to change things and make them better no matter what, Naruto thought as he looked around at the dinner table at all the faces. Kushina was sitting next to him on his right while Shisui sat to his left. They began discussing the training he had his team go through, as did Jiraiya, before they began to eat cake. Once the cake was gone, they each handed Nawaki a present for his birthday. He was sitting on the couch as he opened each and every present, very excited by all the things he got. What caught his eye though was the wrapped present Naruto presented him a moment later. This is a special gift from me, Nawaki, Naruto said as Nawaki began to tear the paper off. Once the paper was off, he opened the box, revealing a katana with a white hilt and a blackened blade. Thank you, sensei, Nawaki said, memorized by the sword, not expecting to get a present like this. Nice sword, it looks very expensive, Jiraiya commented, studying the sword's design as he stood next to Naruto. Naruto turned his head to take a glance at him. It wasn't too expensive, but I wanted to give him something nice for the training I had them go through, Naruto said. He liked training them because it gave him something to do. What about a sensei? Kushina asked. They all went through the same training sessions that Nawaki had. You will get something on your birthdays just like Nawaki has, but it won't be the same thing, Naruto explained, not wanting to say any more about their gifts, for when the time came they would receive their gifts. He noticed out of the corner of his eye how Minato was staring at Kushina. You should tell us the story of how you took down that army of ninja before they could reach Whirlpool, Jiraiya said, putting a hand on his shoulder. Nah, I don't think it is such a good idea, Naruto replied. He caved in though when Kushina and the rest of the room said they wanted to hear it too. So he sat down next to Nawaki, beginning to tell them about the battle, leaving out the Rinnegan abilities, putting other things in their place, but the short time to change it was caught by a couple people in the room, mainly Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kushina and Minato kind of felt something was wrong with the story. After he was done telling his story, he looked around the room at all the shocked faces. They could not believe how easily he had taken down an army. Kushina had sat down next to him about halfway through the story, but now she was leaning on him out cold. A shadow clone quickly materialized in the room, picking up Kushina, taking her home for the night. Jiraiya began his tales of adventure, explaining some of his many battles against ninja to that date. His stories lasted quite a while, but everyone enjoyed themselves. Well, Nawaki and Shisui were having fun, but the rest were sound asleep, so Jiraiya decided to take them home after wishing Nawaki a happy birthday one more time. Shisui left a couple minutes later and then he began to leave too, but he caught sight of Tsunade pulling Nawaki towards the back. The party began to wane down, so Tsunade decided to give Nawaki her gift to him, now leading him onto a little balcony out back of the house. Why do you want to give my present to me out here, Nei-chan? Nawaki asked. The reason I want to give it to you out here is because I want to know what your dream is first, Tsunade said. Nawaki thought about it for a second, quickly finding the answer because he always wanted to become it since he was young. My dream is to gain the respect of everyone, to become the greatest Hokage ever so I can protect everyone in the village, Nawaki said. He smiled, knowing this is what he truly wanted and he would go forth full tilt to accomplish this. Tsunade smiled as she slowly began to take off her grandfather's necklace, placing it around Nawaki's neck, gaining a shocked look from him. Why are you giving me this, Nei-chan? I thought you would never give it away, Nawaki asked, twirling the jewel part of the necklace between two of his fingers. It is to help you accomplish your goal. With that necklace you are sure to become Hokage, Tsunade replied as she leaned forward, giving him a quick kiss on the forehead, making him blush from embarrassment. Nei-chan, someone may be watching, Nawaki said, pouting. Tsunade took a step back to give him some room as she stared at her brother in the dimming sunlight. I'll make you and grandfather proud, Nawaki said, smiling. I know you will, Tsunade replied, ruffling his hair. Unknown to them, Naruto was standing behind the door that led to the balcony, listening to every word that was spoken. I will make sure you survive, Nawaki, no matter what. You deserve a second chance. You were an innocent who died in war, but this time you will live on, Naruto said. He slowly walked away from the door out of the apartment, being the last one in the house besides the two Senju. He shut the door behind him as he walked into the streets away from the house, looking more determined than ever. Didn't get much sleep last night since I was called out for a mission, but it doesn't bother me, I have been without sleep before, Naruto thought, sighing a bit. He looked around the forest where he and around 6 Jonin had fought 2 battalions of Iwa ninja. The place looked like a mess, blood dripping off the trees as well as body parts scattered throughout the area. The morning sunlight made the scene even worse, signifying the blood in a hue-like glow. I think that's the last of them, a random Jonin to his left announced. 2 of the Jonin had gotten pretty injured during the fight, one had a broken arm and the other had his chest punctured by a kunai, but all were alive. The Iowa ninja weren't so lucky though. Good, let's head back. I need to do a couple things back in the village, Naruto said. Most of the Jonin looked relieved because the fight was over for now and they were returning home. When they began to leave the forest, the area they once stood lit up, blowing a portion of the trees sky high. Naruto had gotten out of it with a couple burn marks because he had let his guard down for a second. He looked at the other Jonin, noticing the two injured ones from before were dead, along with another one, leaving only 3 other Jonin besides him left. He studied the burnt bodies of the ninja who had fought alongside of them. Damn it, if I didn't let my guard down, maybe all of us could have made it back safely, but I guess we won't be getting out of this easily, Naruto said. The other Jonin had heard him, but most were staring at the ruined forest where the explosion had taken place, seeing around 30 rock ninja emerge from the foliage. Crap, we are outnumbered, a random Jonin stated beside him. He knew that if the 3 Jonin here fought, they would die because of the sheer numbers of ninja before them, so he opted to fight alone. Get out of here, I will take care of them. Meet me at the town nearby, this will be over soon enough, Naruto shouted. The Jonin looked at him like he was crazy. They knew it was suicide by how many ninja there were. We can't just leave you, so we will fight together, another Jonin announced. They all readily agreed, but Naruto did not, because by the numbers he saw they would not make it out of this fight, because he could not protect them as he fought. He could, but it would leave himself wide open at times. Don't worry about me, just go, I got this handled, Naruto shouted at them. After a couple seconds of seeing the look Naruto was giving them, they ran the opposite direction away from the advancing squads of Iwa ninja. Finally, I didn't want to reveal many of my secrets yet, Naruto thought. The Iwa ninja looked smug. They believed they had this in the bag because only one ninja stayed. You should have went home crying while you had the chance, but it looks like you are going to die here, a Iwa ninja said, confidence oozing off him. Naruto smirked at the guy who acted. Most likely the guy was the leader by how he was dressed, since no one else had the same clothes he had on. You must be the leader, but I have to say your scare tactics suck. The burning forest behind you scares me more than your ugly face does, Naruto said, grin stretching across his face. The Iwa ninja was infuriated by how this guy acted, thinking that he could defeat them all on his own. The other Iwa ninja around the leader all looked angry now, but they did not charge yet, which confused Naruto greatly until he realized something. They're trying to attack me from underground. There are about 10 ninja advancing on my position, Naruto thought. He was pulsating chakra through his feet to help him detect them. Sage mode really comes in handy in situations like this, and since they were fighting on solid ground unlike during the Whirlpool invasion, they have a little more of an advantage here. He showed no signs of knowing that they were trying to attack him from underground as he stared at the forces in front of him. He switched places with a clone he had made earlier so that after they fail in their sneak attack he would provide one of his own. Hey, they are so clueless, Naruto thought, looking out into the small field where his clone stood, irritating the Iwa ninja further than he had. All the Iwa ninja began running through hand signs. The ground shifted all around them as the ground lifted up like a river of mud as it rushed his clone. Is this the best you got? It's pathetic, the Naruto clone shouted as he went through hand signs himself. Doden. Rock encampment, Naruto shouted. The ground in front of him lifted up, blocking the incoming attack, but the Iwa ninja's attack would not be stopped by such a defense because it was constantly moving. The wall in front started to crumble, but it gave Naruto just enough time to vanish out of sight, appearing directly behind the group of ninja, none knowing he had escaped. Looks like he was all talk, the leader of the group announced, chuckling. His chuckling ceased when a kunai was lodged in the back of his neck. He began gurgling before falling over lifeless in a pool of his own blood. What the hell? A random ninja shouted, looking at their down leader. They all quickly turned when they heard chuckling coming from behind. You guys need more training out of all you here. Only he was a Jonin, meaning that you guys must be low Chunin level or lower. This will be easy, Naruto stated. He saw the Iwa ninja all began to smirk. He knew why too, because the ninja underground were now beneath him ready to take him out. So he provided his own smirk back, irritating the ninja even further. What the hell are you grinning about, you Konoha scum? A Iwa ninja scowled. Naruto did not get the time to answer, however, as the 10 ninja emerged around him, all with a weapon piercing him from all angles. It's over, one of the ninja said. Yeah, it sure is, Naruto said as he began to glow white, making all the ninja in the area backpedal, realizing what was about to happen. The next second the clearing was rocketed by the intense explosion from the clone. All the 10 ninja that had stabbed him all were dead. By the look of it you would not be able to tell who they were anymore. As for the other ninja, about 10 had second and even third degree burns up their skins. Around 10 were dead while the last 10 looked perfectly fine, managing to get far enough back to not get hit by the explosion at all. The next moment though would be remembered for a long time as Naruto appeared from the tree line. In his outstretched hands was a black orb-sized ball of chakra until he threw it into the center of the clearing. Not a second later he vanished a good distance away to control it from a better position. The Iowa ninja did not know what hit them as the injured were instantly lifted off the ground with the rising rocks around them. The ninja who were uninjured provided some resistance until the ground cracked under their feet, crashing into their legs and arms, breaking them as they were lifted up, getting dragged towards the black sphere. I guess I better finish this now because my team probably thinks I am dead by now, Naruto thought. As he increased the gravity around the small rock sphere that now floated in the clearing, crushing everything inside. Seconds later a sound of bones cracking echoed across the clearing. After he was sure they were dead he released his hold on it, letting it fall to the ground, breaking into pieces. The grassy area was covered in blood, guts and dismembered body parts, almost making him throw up by how gruesome the place looked. I guess I am finished here, Naruto thought. He sensed 2 Iowa ninja quite a distance away, probably scouts of some sort he assumed. He vanished from their sight in the clearing. Did you see what just happened? One of the scouts asked from his position behind a bush. The other scout could only nod as he was left dumbfounded by the scene in front of them. The scout went to say something again but he couldn't because a katana protruded through his chest, stopping him. The scout next to him jumped back, scared to death. His partner slid off the offending blade. The same blonde-haired guy stood there with blood dripping off his sword. Naruto noticed how scared the guy was. He really did not want to kill a guy who did not want to fight. He had to though, since the guy saw all of his abilities. I'm sorry, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, Naruto said. As he swung his blade down at the scout, not giving any time for the man to react as the sword cut through his shoulder, hitting the neck's major artery as well, making a stream of blood flow out of the wound, leaving the guy stunned in disbelief. Naruto swiped his blade on a cloth to get the darkened blood off his blade. He sheathed his blade as he began to walk away from the 2 dead scouts. Their bodies unmoving, but he never looked back because this is what war was. Everyone is to blame only when you realize this peace can be attained. War is pointless. This unbound hatred that this world is saturated in much change, Naruto whispered. It was about 1 o'clock by the time Naruto saw the town he spoke of to the 3 Jonin who retreated. They must have spotted his chakra signature that he set out in purpose of them coming to him, since he did not want to search the town. They came up to him looking relieved, although a bit weary, not thinking it was him because they thought he should have died in the encounter with the Iowa ninja. After 20 minutes though of talking with him they realized it was him, meaning he must have took down the Iowa regiment. How did you defeat all those Iowa ninja? A Jonin asked him. They were jumping from branch to branch as they traveled back to the Leaf Village. That's my secret, so I'm not telling anyone, Naruto replied, smirking. The Jonin looked at him with a scowl because he really wanted to know what happened. The Jonin began to talk between each other as Naruto was silent the rest of the way to the Leaf Village. His sight set straight ahead the whole way, many thoughts passing his mind. I hope my team wasn't set out on a mission yet, Naruto thought. He was worried because he knew this was around the time Nawaki had died. He wanted to make sure to protect them when the time came, but no, he was sent out on a mission. He had caused quite the fuss when the mission was given to him, but he never actually stated the reason why he did not want to undertake the mission to begin with. Naruto, the village is coming up, the Jonin announced from his right, cutting him out of his thought. He nodded towards him, showing that he had heard. Once they reached the gates, Naruto did not wait for the other Jonin to follow him as he vanished out of sight, appearing in the Hokage's office right in front of the Sandame's desk. The reason for this is because he did not feel his students' chakra signatures anywhere in the village when they had approached the village. The Sandame looked up from his paperwork when Naruto appeared in his office. How did the mission go, Naruto? The Sandame asked. He slid his paperwork to the side as he asked the question, looking serious. It went good. We took out around 40 Iowa ninja near the border. I sensed more coming, but they will probably be coming in further up north than where we were. How many ninja are in the group you sensed? The Sandame asked. He sent ninja out that way about 3 hours ago because he had gotten a report stating a town had been overran by ninja. If I have to estimate, probably around 200. They weren't all together. I sensed they were some distance apart, Naruto replied. He had used Sage Mode during the beginning of his fight, catching the other ninja in range. The Sandame went from calm to a look of worry passing over his face. If that's the case, then I need to send more ninja towards that direction because the ninja I just sent 3 hours ago will not be enough to withstand that many, the Sandame said. Did you send my team to that position? Naruto asked. He hoped he had not sent them there since they were fresh genin just out of the academy not long ago, but he knew they probably were. I did. They were the only ones in the village at the time, along with a couple Chunin and Jonin, along with Orochimaru as the leader of the mission, the Sandame announced. Naruto realized they were completely outnumbered from the advancing Iwa ninja. Then I am going. Since my team is in danger, it is my duty to save them, Naruto said as he was about to leave. Wait, you don't even know where you are going, the Sandame said. I can sense the Iwa ninja easily, so I will be able to find them easily, so you don't have to worry, but just in case send back up and tell them to hurry, Naruto replied. Naruto puffed in a plume of smoke a moment later, indicating that he was a shadow clone, meaning he had already left probably about halfway through their talk. The Sandame began organizing a group to go help Naruto and the ninja already there. Tell Jiraiya to come here and hurry, we got a problem, Sandame shouted to the Anbu who lurked in the shadows of the room. A moment later an Anbu appeared out of the shadows, vanishing a moment later. I will not make it there until nightfall. I just hope Nawaki can hold out for that long, Naruto thought. His eyes shifted to a shade of yellow and purple, indicating he had activated Sage Mode. Once it was activated, he jumped into the tree line away from Konoha at a breakneck speed, knowing he had no time to waste. With Sage Mode activated, he knew exactly where the Iwa ninja were located, so he did not need to stop and think. If he took a closer look at his eyes, he would have noticed they were now a mix between purple and yellow, making them stand out even more than they did before. As Naruto continued his path, Team 5, Orochimaru and the rest of the Chunin and Jonin were at the town that had been attacked by Iwa, but the weird thing was that no Iwa ninja were in sight anywhere near the village, so they had no problem entering. I wonder why Iwa attacked this place if they weren't going to use it as a base of sorts, Shisui said. He was walking alongside Kushina and Nawaki, looking around the town for anything suspicious, but found nothing. There are no Iwa ninja left in this place, so why do we have to keep searching? Kushina said. They had been at it for about an hour now while Orochimaru was busy organizing something with the higher-up ninja they were with in a hotel room they rented out. The shops around them were all open and the people walking the streets did not look scared. Everything looked perfectly fine. There wasn't even one single ninja besides the ones they came here with anywhere in the town. You're probably right, but we have to keep looking because we were ordered to. Unless you want to go give a report now, Nawaki asked. After another 20 minutes of looking around the normal-looking town, they decided to head back to the hotel room. When they entered the room, Orochimaru came up to them while the rest of the ninja in the room stayed put over a large map that was rolled out on the floor. Did you find anything within the town? Orochimaru asked. No, nothing to report. Everything looks to be relatively peaceful around here, like an attack never took place, Shisui said. Orochimaru looked at them for a couple seconds before nodding, letting them rest up for a bit just in case if any fighting ensue. Team 5 walked over to one of the bedrooms, entering the room, closing the door behind them. Finally, I needed a little break, especially since we ran from Konoha to here non-stop for 3 hours, then we are made to search out a town for an hour, Kushina said, grumbling as she laid back on the futon. The three of them shared a room with a couple others since they were probably not going to use it since they would not be here very long. We will probably have to move out soon though, Nawaki stated, laying down as well. Shisui just sat up in a meditative poise to think on a couple things. I wonder what sensei is doing right now, Kushina thought as a blush appeared on her face. She did not know why she felt this way, it was completely new to her. She turned over, pushing her face into the pillow, trying to get the blush to go away but couldn't. Nawaki spotted this, making a wide grin appear on his face. You know, if you like sensei you should just tell him how you feel or just give him a big kiss right on the lips, Nawaki said, teasing Kushina. She lifted her head out of the pillow, glaring at him with a cold pointed look, saying, do not mess with me. Shut up and go mess with someone else because I don't like Naruto sensei, Kushina said, growling. Nawaki gulped in fear, running out of the room, not wanting to get hit in the nuts again like before. Kushina quickly turned over on the futon, facing the wall, staring at it until a voice called from behind. Kushina, what do you truly feel? I can tell you feel something for sensei, Shisui asked from his position against the wall. Shisui still had his eyes closed as he sat there in his meditative poise. I don't know, it's so confusing, Kushina replied. Well then don't worry about what Nawaki says, if you like him oh well, if you don't it doesn't matter. Just take the time to figure out what you are feeling before you do anything, Shisui explained. Kushina had listened to every word he had spoken and she knew he was right. I guess, Kushina mumbled. What Shisui just told her did help, but she still felt lost about the range of emotions she felt towards Naruto sensei, not knowing what to do about them. Her thoughts were cut off as Nawaki came back into the room with a serious expression plastered on his face. A couple of Iwa ninja were spotted entering the forest nearby. Orochimaru thinks they know we are here, so we are going to attack soon, Nawaki said. Kushina and Shisui nodded, getting up while starting to get their gear ready for battle. They came ready with 2 sets of weapons just in case of a long battle were to happen. Let's go kick some Iwa ninja ass, Kushina shouted, pumping a fist in the air. They exited the room, noticing no one was left in the hotel, so they quickly ran out of the hotel and out of town. Once out of town they saw Orochimaru and the rest of the Konoha ninja near the forest on the outskirts of the town. We will enter the forest 3 ways, each team will be comprised of 4 genin, 10 chunin, and 8 jonin. One team will take this main path while another takes the tree tops, also the last team will come in at an angle from the left side, Orochimaru stated. He began organizing the teams, Nawaki being in a group with Orochimaru, which would take the center path while the group Kushina was in would take to the trees. Good luck Nawaki, Kushina says. Nawaki nodded, as did Shisui a moment later, before the 3 of them split apart, going into their separate groups headed by an elite jonin. Proceed with the plan, Orochimaru said over the intercom. His team shot into the forest, taking the main path with Nawaki somewhere in the middle of the group as they ran. The other 2 groups ran into the forest seconds later. After 5 minutes of running there still were no signs of any Iwa ninja nearby. There's no one here. Where are all of the Iwa ninja? Nawaki asked. Orochimaru was about to grace him with an answer, but before he could, Nawaki walked forward, cutting a see-through tripwire a couple feet in front of the group. Shit, a trap, Nawaki thought. Everyone but Nawaki jumped away as explosive tags lit up on all the trees in the surrounding area. He would not be able to escape in time. Just as the blast went off, Naruto dove forward, taking Nawaki to the ground as an earth dome covered them when the initial blast hit. The whole clearing lit up in a blaze of glory, destroying the trees and a couple ninja caught in the blast radius. Shisui had caught sight of Nawaki in the clearing right when the blast went off. He fell to his knees as tears began dripping out of his eyes. The thing was, it wasn't tears, but it was the Mangekyo Sharingan taking root, because he believed his good friend had just died. No, Nawaki, Shisui thought. Kushina wasn't faring no better. She was in a state of shock, as were a couple others. Naruto did not know any of this though because all he felt was pain as the rock dome fell 2 seconds later sending him and Nawaki into a nearby tree. Before they hit the tree Naruto maneuvered his body so he would take the hit and not his student. Damn that hurt, Naruto thought coughing up some blood after pulling himself from against the tree. Placing Nawaki on the ground next to him so he could get a breather. There's not much time, Naruto thought. Right when that thought crossed his mind Iwa ninja began to swarm the forest. He caught sight of Orochimaru and the rest of the Konoha forces trying to fight them off. He wanted to continue to watch them fight to try and help if they needed it but he couldn't as around 10 ninja landed in front of him. Looks like this one will be an easy kill, an Iwa ninja said smirking. The rest agree about to move forward for the kill. You would think so since I am injured but I am not incapable, Naruto said. He lifted his arms out palms facing the ninja before him, they wouldn't know what hit them. Shinra Tensei, Naruto said. The Iwa ninja did not know what happened as a force slammed into them killing 8 of them with the force alone sending them through a couple trees before their lifeless bodies dropped to the ground. Summoning jutsu, Orochimaru shouted as the forest was swarmed with snakes latching onto any Iwa ninja found killing them instantly. Some were able to fight them off but they were killed moments later by Orochimaru himself. I think I might try to save Orochimaru from himself, I am still not sure how to go about it though, Naruto thought as he coughed up more blood. His vision started to fade. I can't pass out yet, there are still Iwa ninja in the forest so I have to protect my team, Naruto thought as he slowly tried to get up. Sensei, Kushina shouted as she ran towards him noticing that he saved Nawaki but got badly hurt himself. Hey Kushina, I'm glad you're okay, Naruto whispered before he passed out from his injuries. Kushina jumped forward catching Naruto before he could hit the ground. Thank you for saving Nawaki Naruto-sensei, Kushina whispered as she held him close for a moment before laying him next to Nawaki. The rest of the battle ended pretty quickly because Jiraiya appeared with the backup ninja to take down the rest of the ninja forces stationed in the forest. The forest was quickly taken back from Iwa before their forces were completely obliterated. It was getting late so they headed back to Konoha to give their report of the battle that transpired. The next morning back in Konoha. Where am I? Naruto asked. He slowly opened his eyes seeing a white ceiling finally knowing where he was at and he did not like it at all. Damn it I am in the hospital, I hate the hospital, Naruto thought as he sat up. A groan came from his left side making him look in confusion but what he saw made him give a small smile because Kushina sat in a chair by his bed with her head down on the bed itself. Nawaki laid in a bed across from him with Shisui sitting next to his bed. He began to twirl a piece of Kushina's bangs that hang down in her face. Naruto-sensei what are you doing? Kushina asked as she lifted her head slowly with a noticeable blush on her face. She slowly began to rub her eyes as she waited for an answer. No reason, just thought you looked really cute, Naruto said smirking as her face turned crimson just like her hair. He couldn't see her face for long as she turned her face away embarrassed by what he said. Now this is even cuter, Naruto said as he ruffled her hair. Kushina began to grumble pushing Naruto's hands away as she fixed her hair from his ministrations. You're an idiot sensei you could have died, you were so reckless, Kushina said looking down. She knew if he did not do what he had done Nawaki would have died, but she felt horrible since he got hurt. It will take a lot more than this to kill me so don't worry, Naruto replied confidently. After he said that Kushina punched him hard in the arm as she yelled at him for being so careless before she ran out of the room with tears in her eyes. What just happened? Naruto thought as he looked at the room door confused not knowing what made her so upset until one Tsunade Senju appeared in the doorway. What did you do to Kushina? Tsunade growled. I don't know she was saying something about me being so reckless but I dismissed it, she then punched me in the arm running out of the room, Naruto replied. Tsunade nodded realizing Kushina had a little crush on her sensei. She walked forward wrapping her arms around Naruto. What are you doing? Naruto asked. That was all he got the chance to say as Tsunade's lips connected with his in a deep kiss, leaving him bewildered but returned it nonetheless. After a couple seconds, Tsunade pulled back away from him with a smile on her face. That's for risking your life to save Nawaki, and when you get out of here I got something else for you as well, Tsunade said. Naruto's eyes widened at the implication as she checked his charts. She saw that he was rapidly improving, so he probably would be allowed out of the hospital tomorrow. You will be allowed out of the hospital tomorrow, so rest until then, Tsunade said as she walked to the door, swaying her hips trying to get a reaction out of Naruto. He stared at Tsunade's butt until she walked out of the room, closing the door behind her. He laid back down, trying to get more sleep since he felt completely drained of energy. I don't think I will be able to sleep now with what Tsunade just did to me, Naruto thought, sighing. He wanted to know what Tsunade had in store for him so badly, but he also wanted to get out of the hospital to talk to Kushina. At least Nawaki is alive. I'm glad I was able to make it in time, Naruto thought as he looked towards Nawaki's bed before he drifted off to sleep a moment later. The morning sun leaked in through the window slightly, but not waking up Naruto from his soundless sleep that he needed really bad.